I think now we are ready.
Okay, great. Welcome everybody to our Friday discussion. I'm stepping in for the moderator who is supposed to be Clinton. He's the one who suggested the topic, but he hasn't logged in yet. In case he does, in the course of the discussion, we'll give it back to him. But if he doesn't, it's still okay. I was cooking, and because I don't want things to burn, I will continue cooking as I talk. So if you're hearing any hissing sounds, it's not a ritual snake. It is my food boiling. I trust we all had a splendid week. Or even if it wasn't splendid, at least it was average. Or it was not tragic. That's at least the bare minimum. Our topic for today is creation myths. Creation myths. And as I said, the person who suggested the topic was Clinton. He wanted to look at it from the angle of comparison based on the subtopics which he sent. He wanted to consider the similarities or the function of creation myths and their relevance today. That was the approach he was using. Of course, we've had this discussion numerous times about creation myths. We had it when we were talking about scientific inaccuracies in the Quran as well as the Bible. We had this discussion when talking about intelligent design and several other areas. It's very likely that as we go forward, there will be some topics that overlap, that recur, but now the angle which will be used to discuss them is what will differ. Yeah, because I mean, you can only talk about things, new things for so long. You should get to a point where you have exhausted almost most of the topics, especially those that pertain to you becoming an atheist. Because one of the reasons why some people become atheists is when they realize the implausibility of creation accounts. Many of us had the background of Christianity, but we live in Kenya. If you know of tribal creation myths, the Kikuyu, the Luya, the Maasai, they all have their creation myths. So if you know of any, you can also reference them, or Near East creation myths from Mesopotamia, Roman, Greek myths. You know, those ones are also very common in this field because it is called comparative mythology, that field. It's an entire discipline, by the way. So there are 4 subtopics which Clinton gave us. One of them is, why do almost all civilizations have them? Why do almost all civilizations have creation myths? Why? We are looking at the why. Number 2, can they be historically or scientifically defended? Can you defend creation myths using science and history? 3, were they used to establish morality, order, and authority? So this one is an extension of the why question. And then finally 4, do they still have relevance or value in modern society? So by the way, El Maestro, if you can prompt people, if you can remind them that the meeting has started, let them log in on the groups, it would be great. So guys, let's start with the first one. Why do almost all civilizations have creation myths? Yes, guys, don't be
Lucas,
shy.
Lucas, I can't see. Lucas, I'm using a laptop. I can't see the place for the hands.
Oh, okay.
Is it?
Then,
I can't see.
then
Sorry.
just go ahead and give your
Okay.
contribution. The question we
Yeah.
are answering is, why do almost all civilizations have creation myths?
Yeah. Okay. I think just Nini, trying to understand life. As the human brain grew, it reached a stage of trying to understand how life works, how life began, and where we came from. Yeah. Thanks.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Tommy, you also cannot raise your hand.
Yes, I'm on a browser on a phone, so I installed the app by mistake. I hope to return it, but I forgot. So I have a challenge of the same challenge as Muriuki.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So first of all, I think by calling them myths, you already classify them to be not trustworthy. So the better term to use would be creation accounts. So when you call them creation accounts, that means it's open to be studied, to be whether they are myths, because in literature there are, I think, four groups of classification. It can be a folklore, it can be a myth, it can be a history, it could be a legend. So when we call them myths, already we have dismissed them from being worth study. That said, to answer the question, the reason why we find them across uh, different cultures is because logically everything had to have a beginning, and if everything had to have a beginning, we have to, as human beings, ask ourselves where we came from. So I think it's incumbent upon us as humans, or higher creation, or higher animals, if you want to say, to question origins, because it's the capacity which makes us human, to ask ourselves why we are here, where we are going. Thank you.
All right. Please feel free to raise your hands, guys. Oh, great. I'm seeing some hands are up. Let's hear from Uzi.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, loud
Can
and
you hear
clear.
me? Okay. In my account, what I would say about, I would agree with Tommy. For us, mostly the guys who do not believe in the stories, we would rather run them as mates because we have categorically placed them that way, and we have studied them to be mates. But what Tommy had raised about the calling them myths, I would agree. Maybe we would call them different names, because in both the believers and the people who have dismissed them, we have different categorization. For us, we call them myths. For them, maybe it's their belief and something like that. For me, as maybe so, I would say it's a myth. Mostly, I would categorize them as when human beings, in terms of evolution, human beings would come up with this idea of the problem of consciousness, where they would start questioning about their origins. In terms of it was the I would categorize it as the first science of human beings, where you can see yourself, you can see the things that are in your surrounding, and you're trying to understand how all these great things in your perception came to be. So every community, most of them, okay, there are communities that never had the idea of gods and stuff, which have been later been discovered. But those who had, they had to come up with something that they saw as something great, and then it would try to describe environment specifically, and it would also solve the problem maybe they had. So maybe let's say for the Gikuyu, they had the mountain which they viewed as the greatest point, the highest point in their belief. So they would say maybe the mountain or I think the mountain in Kenya. For the Maasais, they would say maybe they came from heaven with their cows and something like that. In other societies, maybe you would say they had different gods, their origins. They would say maybe they came from different things. So personally, I would say it's the first science which people tried to understand where they came from and why they are that way. And now they came up with things that maybe aligned with specifically the things they wanted. Yeah.
Okay, very well said, Uzi. It was like the first attempt at science, because science is a method of studying the natural world. Yeah, so this was their first attempt. It is a rudimentary one. And you've also chipped in on that nomenclature of myth versus account. Thank you. Next is El Maestro.
Yeah. So the reason why I think we have so many creation accounts or creation stories or myths, wherever you want to call it, is number one, as people have talked about here, trying to explain the unknown. Like there's no universally agreed story of where human beings came from. So that's why there are so many. So, but now I'm trying to ask myself, why are even let's say a country like Kenya, before even the Europeans came and invaded our culture, there are different tribes, different civilizations with their own different creation stories. And I'm trying to understand that why would even in just a small community, there are different sects of creation stories that differ massively. So I think this are just the reason why is another reason I can say why there are so many uh, creation accounts in civilizations is uh, maybe people are just trying to bring out their create their creativity or what, trying to be creative or not agreeing with, okay, one community can say their own creation story, but then you don't agree it, but and then you come up with your own from your own community of how you think this world came from. Basically, just trying to explain the unknown and using your own understanding of the world, which it was flawed reasoning. If you don't know something, why do you want to? If you don't know something and you have no evidence of what you think it can be, just say you don't know. But that's why there are so many. Maybe other civilizations were trying even to compete with others, or some don't like the others, so they don't they come up with their own identity, with their own creation story of where they came from, things like those.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Thank you, El Maestro. He believes that it is a way of explaining the unknown. Morioki, you've been able to find your emoji for raising the hand.
Yeah, I found it. Yeah, I just want to add, I think also that time the mind was very young. The human mind was just evolving. It was very young. So they were like experimenting with it. Maybe we just learned how to talk. We had learned language. So it was just aware of using the young mind. Thanks.
Okay. Now, because Mogaka had spoken previously, okay, I allowed Morioki to speak the second time because I know you're a man of few words. Let me give my contribution, then we'll hear from you, Mogaka. As we also start thinking of the next question, which is, can these creation myths be historically or scientifically defended? That's the next subtopic. What is my perspective on why do almost all cultures have them? I think I concur with what a number of you have said. It is an attempt to know the unknown. Human beings are curious creatures, and we are also uncomfortable with the unknown. When we don't know something, the human tendency is to come up with something, even when it is not based on truth. In fact, the way El Maestro was saying that we have several cultures that each have very divergent creation myths, and you find that a number of them, even within the same community, like I found out among the Maasai, they have like two different creation myths. Yeah. So you find that there's even divergence within the same community. That to me was one of the reasons that made me leave religion. I realized they can't all be right. And the foundation upon which they are resting their case is just a story, it's just a narrative. Okay. So that is what I have to say on the different types. Now, why do they exist? In order to understand the unknown, people seek to determine why we have gender relations, like why the genders have different roles. So they use these creation myths. Kindly mute. Okay, there was somebody. So there was somebody's mic that was unmuted. Now it's muted. Thank you. So we tried to understand or to explain why gender roles exist, or to explain them, or even to assert them, to enforce the different gender roles. Then another reason is a tendency to assert your specialness, your uniqueness as a community. Most of these creation myths are actually very localized in that they center on the tribe or the community that brought it up. For instance, here in Kenya, like the Kikuyu, their creation myth focuses on how Mwene Nyaga, who is the god of the universe, existed, lived in the skies, but then he commissioned the first human to live near Mount Kirinyaga, Mount Kenya, what we now call Mount Kenya, right? So yani they're putting it around there. Then for the Maasai, their creation myth puts them at the heart of it, and it says that God Enkai gave them a charge over all the cattle. Then in another variant of their myth, they gave their Akamba a bow and arrow, and sijui which other people something to do farming with. So, they were in charge and they were blessed with that responsibility. So they're very tribalistic, and they are there to show why a certain community is special, because they were the ones responsible for the creation of human beings and even the planet. So yeah, there's that aspect. Then another reason why they exist is to explain suffering. Why do we have suffering, or why do we have disasters, especially natural disasters? They were attempting to try and manipulate nature using those myths. Finally, I know I've spoken for long. Finally, I have to differ with our Christian compatriot Mogaka here, who does not want us to use the word myth. He says, because it means you have already dismissed account. But I don't want to participate in the same word gymnastics that you Christian apologists are fond of. I will call something what it is. A myth. What does the dictionary say? What is a myth? A myth is a traditional or legendary story, usually featuring deities or heroes, that attempts to explain fundamental mysteries of nature, human behavior, or the universe. While often historically unverifiable, these narratives hold profound symbolic and cultural value within a society. All creation myths, or the whatever you're claiming accounts, are unverifiable. So we will call them what they are. They are myths. Don't try to soften the blow and make them an account. Because we've already examined them. You're saying that is to dismiss the claim because you have not examined it. Who are you to assume that we have not examined it? We have examined it. Anyway, I leave it there. And anyway, because your hand is up and I was speaking directly to you, you can respond. You can tell us what you wanted to say. Then the other people kindly think of the next question. Can creation myths be historically or scientifically defended?
Thank you, Sister Dorcas. Allow me to just make a clarification. What I was presenting was not the Christian perspective. The word should be I'm presenting it as from an academic perspective. When you're coming to discuss something on an equal ground, you don't paint it black and then expect to discuss, unless you already have made up your mind, and this is just an in-house party where you expect just to have the same results and not expect a pushback or discussion. But academically, there are four classifications of ancient literature. Go wherever you go, you'll either find them classified as myths, folklore, historical account, and I think legend. And then now from there is when now you come to discuss the details of which does it fit to a certain grouping or a classification. So it's not me who's bringing that. It's what academics call them. Now, the reason why I believe they are somehow every culture has one is, number one, it's important to consider that they're not all, as you're saying, completely different, or they're not completely not aligning. There are so many things which have been found which are common across the board. For example, almost all of them begin with primordial chaos. Now, it is either these cultures had a common origin, or they had supernaturally, or some way they were reading from the same script, which of course we know that's not the case. So number two, another example of something that cuts across is a 7-day weekly cycle. You'll find almost every culture has that kind of a clockwork, which is something which is not found in nature. So you cannot say that they created it based on observing the world around them. This is something that either was imputed or put into them, and they remembered it across where they went. Now, of course, distortions came, which I believe were caused by the geographical separation of time and space. So therefore, Are they scientifically, can they be scientifically supported? Well, again, that's something which you have to test first before you make the claim. I know you have studied it before. Based on that, maybe that's why you're saying so. But having not that knowledge or not that information, I cannot confidently say that you are accurate in your prior presentation of the same. I can give you examples of people who have patents, scientists who have done biology and have patents based on those creation accounts. So to test them and say that they are not scientific would be an inaccuracy, because in the real sense, they do come out as being not like 100% where you say this is the steps which you take place for this to be true, or things to come through, but you can see a certain scientific order in the way the things are done. I'm speaking, of course, in the case of the Bible. About the other faiths, I'm not 100% sure, but from what I've studied in the scripture and why I'm confident in it, because it adds up intellectually, it does make sense. Thank you very much.
Tommy, I want you to read the chart. Ex-pastor has asked you a question. He said he might not be able to be vocal in the meeting because of where he is, but I think he can just take it out. He'll answer later.
Right.
Also, you made a very bold claim that we have scientific patents proving creation stories.
Not proving creation stories.
Eh,
What I was saying is there are guys who have made patents based on understanding or going through, for example, in the creation account, testing certain elements of it, and they found those
now
things to be true.
you are goalpost shifting.
No, of course it's
No,
on
you're
YouTube.
goalpost.
We can always play back and find out what was said, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is some people have tested and found out that things in them are true. So therefore, by based on that, it is safe to say that these things are not the way you're saying 100% mythology or 100% falsifications. If
I want
aspects,
you, okay, Mogaka,
yeah.
I want you to
Yeah.
find those scientific verifications
Yes,
of elements.
one of them is
So,
Dr. Calvo.
not now, kindly. That's the
Okay.
next question that we are addressing. Lower your hand, you'll raise it, and then you'll make that contribution.
Oh, thank you very much.
Right. Now, next is Uzi, then Ndeve, then Morioki in that order. Remember, the question now we are answering is, can this creation myths be historically or scientifically defended? Uzi, you're first.
So specifically, when we are talking, I think the topic was mostly not a specific myths, the whole idea of myths. So they are called myths not because they are lies or because they are not true, or it's just they are classified that way because they are methods. Okay, not specifically methods. We can say them like stories that people came up with in order to try to explain their origins. So every society had them. Specifically for all of them, they are in terms of, I think Tommy raised something that I would like to object about scientifically being proven. They are called myths because scientifically they can't be falsified nor tested. Maybe let's give an example about the Maasai and the Gikuyu stories, the myths and their origins. We cannot test that those people came maybe from up the mountain or they came from the skies with their cows. Those things can't be tested. So they are classified as myths not because they are not true, but because they have a category which they are put there because when science came and tried to explain the origin of human beings, it used testable origins, testable things. And then those that became the current competing theory with those myths. So those myths remain as myths because the current model, which science uses to explain, is more verifiable, testable, and repeatable, mostly, unlike the myths themselves. So that specific question, I think we won't say that we have tried and classified them wrongly as false. No, a myth is just a classification of it. I think maybe Dorcas, you can repeat the question. The question, the question itself, so that I can answer.
The question is, can they be historically or scientifically defended?
Okay, I think scientifically I've answered. They are not testable at all. You can't go in every society. Okay, maybe in terms of logically, you can try to reason them out and see if you can throw them away, or maybe you can say they are not true. But scientifically, science deals with things that are testable. So totally, you can test them scientifically. In terms of historically, the origin historically they came from, they were passed on by generations from maybe the person who started them as a group, and then they passed on the myths themselves from maybe the parents to the children, and maybe when they were storytelling around the fire and things like that, maybe in the traditional sense, you could see maybe they passed on, and those people passed on to the other people, and then it continued that way. So you can say that historically you can't prove it. You can't know the origin as this is the person who came up with this idea. It's just an idea of a group, maybe the readers who were at that time who were questioning that idea, and then they came up with it. It's also not testable historically. You can't say it. So the only thing that you can test is maybe philosophically in terms of, are they logically viable and matching with the reality. So you can take the reality of things that they are this way, compare them with the totality of all of them, and see if they match. If they don't match, now you have to question why they don't match, and then now there you can use maybe logic to filter the ones, and then you can take the competing theory, the number one, which is more reliable, and if you find it is more reliable, then you can make the decision to throw it away or keep it.
Okay. So for Uzi, it is a no, but he has given the context of why this is so. Next is Ndebe.
Thanks, Dorcas. Hello, everybody. So the creation stories tend to be really tiny, really egotistical, really regional. It's almost as if the person making this story does not know that the world is big and has got other people. So to me, they sound very, very regional, very, very, very small. That just because I know the edges of my village, that is the whole world. And that is the person that created, oh yeah, they just created me and my brother, and that's it. And they got tired and they rested. There's to me, there is a problem with that. And if I can narrow down to, let's say, the Maasai saying that they were given cows, that all cows were given to the Maasai. The Maasai did not know that they had cows in Europe, and they had cows in Sudan, and they had cows, and those cows did not belong to the Maasai. And we can probably even do DNA and see if there's a connection between the cows of the Maasai and the DNA of the cows, the Frisians that were already going on somewhere. in Britain or somewhere in Europe or somewhere in Sudan, in let's say Ethiopia or wherever else there were cows, particularly in the south of Africa, actually. So when you look at that, I don't know how you defend something like that. That is so parochial. That is so village. Yeah. When we know that the time they are creating this story, there were other people. That is my problem. Thank you.
Aha. Deve sees the paradox in this by talking about how they were too local and too tribalistic. It's almost as if those people only thought that the world revolved around their little villages or their little tribes, yet there were continents that existed at the time. Yet they lay claim to the origin of mankind and of the earth. So yeah, thank you so much, Deve. Next is Morioki, then Tom.
Okay. Lucas, can I ask Tommy a question?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so Tony, maybe you can understand where we come from. Just explain to me why we have male and female. Almost all mammals have male and female, yet in the Bible, in the creation story, the woman came from a rib. Yet almost all mammals have male and female. So kindly explain what that means. Then also I want to give a short story. I was in a youth group in a Holy Family where somebody, he's a Kikuyu, he dismisses Kikuyu and Mombi, and he says Adam and Eve makes more sense than Kikuyu and Mombi. Yet it's a Kikuyu. Just shows how we are brainwashed by the colonialists. He says he doesn't believe in Adam and Eve than Kikuyu and Mombi, and he's a Kikuyu. Just showing the brainwashing. Thanks.
Thank you, Brother Miruki. I'll begin with the last question of your, and I'll defend my Kikuyu brother. I also support him. Number one, he has reasons, which is, I believe he had reasons. I don't know what he told you, but I believe he had reasons of why he's supporting the Adam and Eve over Gikuyu and Mumbi. And one logical reason is the Gikuyu and Mumbi, as Sister Ndeve has rightly put, was very localized. It doesn't explain the bigger scope of the globe or the origins in the universe of mankind. But the Adam and Eve story is one unique aspect of it is in scripture. The Bible tends, actually, let me just put this out there. The Bible is one of the only book in ancient literature which gives or dares to make an attempt to explain human origins in terms of the whole globe. Number one, compared to Gikuyu and Mumbi, you see Gikuyu and Mumbi, I think it's just localized in terms of where they came from. It only talks about the Kikuyu as a source, but it doesn't tell us what about the Japanese. Are they related to Kikuyu and Mumbi? No. But in scripture, we are seeing an account which is global, where it tells you Gikuyu and Mumbi fit under who? It fits under the line of Ham, under Noah, and then son of Adam. You see, so in short, your Kikuyu brother is right, in my opinion, although I don't know exactly his reasons to support the Adam and Eve account. Now, hopefully I've not forgotten the other question that you raised, but let me just say,
male and female, Tommy, male and female.
Sorry, yes.
Male and female.
Thank you. Male and female. Now, in scripture, we are seeing, even in the, you've said correctly, in nature, we are seeing the idea of gender of male and female, which is also not across the board, because you find some animals which have different genders, or some that change genders according to season. But generally, you're right, across nature, we see it's binary, either male or female. Now, why in the creation of the world, according to the Bible, everything was created, yes, male and female, but when it came to man, we are seeing Eve coming from Adam. Again, we see, yes, male and female is still there, by the way. So the male and female account is not removed. Only that for the case of Eve, the account of how she was created was that she was taken out of the side of man and from the rib or the side of the torso, upper torso. Now, that is intended to give us a meaning out of it. Number one, for those who are scientists here or who have done biology, you understand even today, when they want to do regenerative tissue, the rib is one of the best candidates to extract cells, which are able to regenerate. The rib is one of the only organs which grows back when you break it off. So already, we can either say that Moses, when he's taking this account, had biological information, or he was just making a narrative based on divine information, which he didn't know at the time, but was capturing. Number two, the lesson which you get out of that was that Eve was designed to be close to the heart of man. Of course, now that's a theological understanding which is coming through. So the message there is, yes, even the scripture says, let us make man in our image, let us make them male and female. So male and female, Muriuki doesn't change, it's there. Only that in the creation of Eve, a message was being passed that she is the equal of the man, not from the toe bone or not from the skull bone, so that is the head, or not from the foot bone, that she's the lowest, but she was at the side, an equal of Adam and Eve. So in short, of Adam. So in short, maybe just to close, so that we move to the next question. This story for me, it's one of the stories, number one, which challenged my faith. I was almost quitting, especially when we came to Form 1, when they introduced the Zinjanthropus, the origins of man kind of arrangement. I was about to give up Christianity at that point. But when I came through, which I'll share next, Dr. Carl Bohr, those positions were challenged scientifically. And I saw that it takes more faith to accept the atheistic position or the evolutionary position than the creation position. And that's how I'm confident in this. They are not localized, they are universal, because you find the Egyptians have the same story. For example, the Kisi, which is my tribe, we have the myth which is across the Bantu in East Africa and some other tribes. We say we came from Misri. Now you'll come and say this is it's actually called a Misri legend. You'll say this is a fabrication and it can't be scientifically tested. Well, that is your claim, but that's not what science says, or not. That's not what sociologists, people who studies human sociology say, because they look at it and say, yes, there's some truth to this. Maybe it's distorted, but it's true. Meaning, perhaps going back in time, there's an accurate story which got lost when people dispersed. So that is the same position. That's why I'm saying we cannot dismiss these things to be myth or to be not true, yet they hold truth. We can say the way they have been passed down is what has created them to be not true, or to appear to not have to hold truth. But common memory shows that originally there must have been one original story, which now when people went a different ways, different continents, they diffused and lost part of it. Egyptians have the creation tree. I think the South Americans do have it. The Mayans in the America do have it. So how can these people separated by time and space have all this in common, unless they originally had one common story, which now got distorted as people moved across? Thank you very much for your time.
Okay.
Dorcas, can
Yes.
I correct Mogaka on biology? The liver regenerates itself also. It's not just the ribs. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't say only, I said it's one of the organs.
Okay. Now, Mogaka, as usual, makes very controversial remarks, which I'd like us to respond to as we continue answering that question. One of them was that the Bible is the only book, or one of the only books, again, equivocating on words, that gives a creation myth which is universal or global in nature, while most creation myths are local and tribalistic. That was one assertion. I wonder whether we agree with him on that. Another one was that the story of Adam and Eve is showing equality. It shows the fact that she comes from the rib. So do we agree with that? And then another one is that sociology shows that there might have been, perhaps, there might have been some truth to creation claims, but they got watered down as they were passed on across generations. So it is not wise or prudent to just dismiss those claims because of science. Sociology finds that there might be something there. So if we can respond to some of those things, let's do so. We are answering that question, can they be historically or scientifically defended? As we proceed, as we start thinking about the third question. Yes, Uzi.
Okay, thank you very much. So what I would say specifically when we are moving from things we have categorized as myths to all of them as creation stories which came later. So someone has given an example where the people, maybe the Gikuyus themselves, they had their own story of Kikuyu and Mumbi. And then later they switched from that and they left that belief, which they had for a very long time. And then now they came and have another one, which is the Christianity, maybe the creation story of Adam and Eve, which came later. So specifically, I think the difference here, something Tommy had said, I would like to make it clear. So when maybe the missionaries came to Africa, maybe, and I think this happened even earlier, but people later realized that their own communities were not the only place, or not the only people who were created. So these stories which they had, the creation myths, they later tried to see, okay, all these people didn't maybe come from Wiku and Mombi, but we are created also, and we have our own story. What about them? Do they have theirs? And then the people in the method of interaction, they started to see other people's stories. So they met people, maybe when they were mixing up, and then they had this story. Maybe the others maybe came from direct from the sky, the others came from the hills, the others came from, and then these stories didn't make sense mostly. So they held to the belief, but they were skeptical of the belief because it didn't explain the other communities. Now, when uh, it's progressive such that the people try to get a myth that is on a higher level that maybe will explain it better than the current one. So, for the Christian story, it came later, whereby to the people around here. In the Middle East, it was there in the early days. So they tried to, they saw the story as more appealing because it explained the entirety of the people, all of them. It had a story. It had the origin of all human beings. It had a lot of things that the people would fit in and see themselves. It would try to answer what they believe, maybe because they are the chosen people. Maybe if they do this, God will bless them. It solved the problem of their needs. It answered their origin in totality to so that maybe all the people who had answered, who had needed that question, it was answered. Now the problem with maybe one of that myths is the accounts that are in one of those myths. It's localized. When we talk maybe about one of the things, maybe the flood event, it was localized. The things, the origin itself was global, where maybe they say the man was created and then the woman from the rib. Now that was global. It tried to explain everything. And then the events themselves, specifically that we are there inside, they were localized to the region so that we can see where the story came from. It came from the Middle East to talk about the global flood where the whole world was flooded and things like that. But those realistically now, when we try to scientifically check, we find that it's impossible or never happened. It has no way. We can't test it. If it was present, we would have the evidence for it and things like that. So for me, I think I was answering that question. I had answered the primary question earlier. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Uzi, for that elaborate response. Now, we can begin to move on to the third question, which is the second last question. Were they used to establish morality, order, and authority? Were these creation myths used to establish morality, order, and authority? Now, let me also give my contribution as you guys think about the answer for that next question. First of all, in response to those three issues raised in Mogaka's contribution, I think it is inaccurate to claim that the Bible is one of the books, one of the few books, if one of the only books that is universal. The others are local. Those were Kenyan examples that we gave. There are numerous examples from around the world which are global in nature. For instance, among the Native Americans, there is the myth of Hopi, where the world began in a dark, empty void. The Creator helped early beings and animals evolve and climb upwards through multiple underground worlds before finally emerging into the fourth world. Then in ancient Egypt, we have the Creator God Atum, who stood in the primeval chaotic waters through his own will and thought, created the first elements of the universe, setting up the foundation for order. That is Ma'at, yeah, with an apostrophe in between the A's. Then among the Hindus, in the Upanishads, they talk about a glowing golden egg floating in the void. Then it breaks into two halves, which become heaven and earth. In New Zealand, among the Maori, we have primordial parents, Ranginui, the sky father, and Papataunuku, the earth mother. They were locked in a tight embrace. They trapped their children in the darkness until the children pushed their parents apart to create space and light for life to flourish. So there are many examples from around the world which are global in nature. The ones we cited were Kenyan. So please don't claim biblical exceptionalism there. Another thing you said was that sociology see some sort of pattern in some of these myths. And indeed, I have to agree that there are some similarities among these myths, even if we are looking at different continents. But that isn't proof that they are true. It just shows that there are some similarities. They are still very distinct in their nature. Just those examples I've given you of the glowing golden egg floating in the void for the Hindus, or for New Zealand, it was the sky father and the earth mother who are locked in a tight embrace. You know, they're so different, even though we might find a few elements here and there. So you say, perhaps there might have been, but it got watered down. We don't have proof for that. I'm sorry. The time to believe a claim is when there is evidence and not a moment sooner. That is the skeptic's mantra. That is not the mantra that that is not the mantra you're following when you say, oh, we should give them the benefit of the doubt. Sociology is not science. It isn't. It's just a way of understanding human nature. Now, on this major question, can they be historically or scientifically defended? Absolutely not. Whatever Uzi said is spot on. The fact that they are called myths is because they cannot be verified. These stories were created. You know, there's a turtle that expanded among the Native Americans, another tribe of the Native Americans. Then they say that there was a turtle that expanded, then there was mud on it, and then the mud became the continents, the earth. In fact, the way you look at the turtles and the shells, what have you, that's like the continents that we have on earth. You know, these are things, you can't verify that. Yeah. If you look at some of the commonest ones, of course, the Christianity is the common one that is pervasive in our culture, in our society. If you use science, the age of the earth is not supported by the Bible, because the Bible assumes that the earth was created in the same week as humans. So if you do a genealogical analysis, you'll see that you can infer, perhaps plus or minus a couple of years, that the earth is 6,000 years old. That is not supported by science. Science shows through radiometric dating of radioactive isotopes and rocks that the earth is 4.5 billion years. Then some of the scientific claims in creation are not scientifically supported, like the creation in the Bible, that is, like the idea of plants being created before the sun, yet plants need photosynthesis, and many other examples. That is for the Bible, but for all the other examples that I have cited, there's just no way to verify scientifically that these events occurred. We don't have skeletons of early man. If we could find a skeleton of early man, you know, the earliest species of man in Maasai land or in Mount Kenya, then we can go by the Kikuyu creation myth, but that is not the case. So that is my response to this third question. Let's go to the second question. So the third question, second last question that I responded to, were they used? Kindly, just let me finish. I've seen that your hand is up, you'll speak. So let's think of the next question. Were they used to establish morality, order, and authority? Right. Now you can go, Tommy.
Thank you very much, Sister Dorcas. Now, I like the way you present it and the language in which you put it, that, yeah, this is just myths. This is just nothing that can be verified and things like that, which sounds quite appealing for someone who is not favoring Christianity. But it's difficult to support because, number one, you mischaracterized my statement. I didn't say that the Bible is unique on explaining the origins at that level. I was talking about specifically, maybe it's my mistake, I didn't give the details. If you go to the Genesis 10, which is the table of nations, it's called the table of nations, I will challenge you to find another article of ancient nature, which gives you a pen by pen, step by step account of human origins. According to what prominent scholars are saying, ranging from people who are not even Christians to biblical theologians, all agree that this is a radical departure from the idea of a mythical arrangement. And that one you cannot dispute. There are several of them I could name, like William F. Albright, who is the father of biblical archaeology. He is not even a person who accepts the Bible as truth, yet he accounts that Genesis 10, which is a table of nations, is a departure from a mythical arrangement. It is actually a historical document. And if you want, I could give you the details, because it moved from 70 men, and these 70 men produced the bloodlines that we have today, which you can trace using biology, which you can trace using science. So to classify it completely and say that now this is now a few elements of this are now making sense, a few elements should be dispersed. That sounds good for when you want to dismiss the fact. But when you look at the details themselves, even from scholars who are not Christians, scholars who are not even scholars who are atheists themselves, they have to come clean and accept. I'll give you something which is interesting. which you can go check on your own. The Chinese language is one of the few languages. I think they are called, is it pictographs? I don't know how they do it, but they do their language in forms of drawings. Interestingly, biblical themes have been captured in the Chinese language, almost verbatim. For example, the word for flood is drawn using characters, which includes a boat, 8 people, and something like that. So when you go look at where this thing is found, you'll find in scripture the exact thing is mentioned there. So to say, to have a blanket, a dismissal of all of these things and say, for example, just because the plants were created on the day before the sun, is to assume that the plants needed could not be created full and ready to wait for the source of energy. That's an assumption on our side. If you were to take the same position, then there are so many things, even in science, which cannot be proven, but yet we can take them to be truth. So in short, what I'm to say is, if we have to have a standard of truth, let us be honest or uniform across the board and put them an equal level, so that we cannot have a point where we are discrediting something just because of the sake of discrediting it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh dear. That last bit, there are things in science which cannot be proven. I think you're mischaracterizing science.
I can read
The
it for you if
basis-
you want me to read them for you. Can I read for you the exact point which I'm talking about in
No,
science, which
I don't.
cannot
No,
be proven?
no, I don't want us to go back and forth. You've already spoken
No,
for
it's
so
not a
long.
back and forth,
Let's
because
proceed.
you've made a statement according to what I've said, and you want to
Keep it 30 seconds.
fine. Now, there are elements in science. For example, let me give you the example which we take not as a proven 100% claim, but based on best deductions in terms of what we consider to be true, or I mean what we consider. Let's say, for example, the Big Bang and the deep time. That is, according to science, it says 13.8 billions of years. So you use that to dismiss Genesis, the Genesis outright. Number two, you have said that the Earth is 6 billion years. I mean 6,000 years old. Of course, that's not even what the Bible holds. That is what you believe or what you are taught, and then you're imputing it into Scripture. That's not what Scripture teaches. Number one. So
Your 30
already,
seconds are up. Your 30 seconds are up.
yeah.
Okay.
So in short,
You finish.
let me wind up. So in short, when you say, for example, 6-day creation cannot be repeated in the lab or cannot be reproduced, microevolution itself cannot be reproduced. So do we now reject evolution? Then on that account, you should also reject evolution, because it cannot be repeated in the lab. So we need to be across the board equal in our dismissal of things or in science. Thank you.
I think Tommy is being disingenuous by equivocating. Just because science does not have 100% verification of things, it doesn't mean that it is on the same footing as religion. They are light years apart, because religion does not hold evidence as
No,
the threshold.
that's not true. That's not true, my sister, because what you're saying is,
Tommy, let's just leave it there.
Let others
Just
speak,
go back and forth.
Dorcas.
Let
No,
others speak. El Maestro, continue.
when I listen to Tommy speak, it just reminds me why I'm glad I left. I stopped being a Christian. It just makes me glad, because you are saying that I don't know, there are some things in science that cannot be proven, but in religion there is nothing. There is zero, literally nothing in religion that can be proven to be true. Secondly, you are talking about the Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory, it is a theory. It is not something that has been established as true in science. That is just a theory. It is not a truth that has been established to be a scientific truth. Things that are truth scientifically are well known. the Big Bang is not something that I don't know, is accepted as a truth. That is just a theory. Science, collectively, science agrees that we cannot still tell where how this world came. Science still say it just collective says I don't know. Let me just use the word I don't know, because there is no acceptable truth scientifically of where we came from. Those are just theories. Secondly, you are talking about I don't know, similarities of I don't know, some creation myths. I'm calling them myths because there is nothing that is verifiable or uh, that has evidence. But let's say some 4,000 people try to explain something that is unknown. 4,000 people. There is a high probability that there will be similarities between some of these. That's why those similarities exist, because those myths are so many from different many civilizations. So there is a very high likelihood that similarities will be there in some of these stories. That's why those similarities exist. And it's not like that, like these similarities are that big. They're just here and there. And moving on to the question number three, of course, these creation stories, they were used uh, to to things to do with the teach, I don't know, morality, and also to establish authority, like the very famous I'll use the very famous story myth that is of the Christian origin, where they are talking about Adam and Eve and explaining where sin came from in the same in the same creation story. I don't know if this is it the first creation account or the second creation account. The although they are using that story of Adam and Eve to explain the origin, they're also including things to do with the morality, like when you are when I argue with some people here about gayism and how gayism is we should just let gays live at all, they start saying, I don't know, God created Adam and Eve, and God did not create Adam and Steve. Those I wonder how they derive these things. But and also explaining where sin came from using those same stories, establishing that, I don't know, the man is has authority over woman, because it is Eve who ate the fruit first and not the man. It is Eve who deceived the man. It is the woman who deceived the man, and things to do with the teaching obedience. I don't know, morality. These creation stories are used also to teach those things, apart from explaining where the world came from. For me, yes, they are used also to teach those things. I don't know, morals or obedience, things like those.
All right. Thank you, El Maestro, for that contribution.
And
Next is
and 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 last but not least, I'm glad I stopped being a Christian, because what do you mean that you are dismissing your own myth from your own community, but you are accepting the myth of your colonizer, of your oppressor who came? These things I just laugh. Anyway, Muruki, you can continue.
Is it me on Deve? Because it's me, eh? Okay, I'm next. Okay,
yes,
fine.
it's you. It's you. Ndebe has not raised her hand.
Oh yeah, like Nani is saying, the maestro is saying, though they're like when you fear God, God punished Adam and Eve, so that can create fear. That if you do wrong, you'll be punished the way your parents, Adam and Eve, were punished by God. They disobeyed God, so they were punished. Then also now, again, at that time, women were seen as the weaker sex. So creation was made to demean women because like since Eve, she was tricked by the serpent. So it shows that time women are seen as lower than men, which is very unfortunate. Creation shows women are being degraded. Then a question for Nani, for Tommy. Tommy, I would expect a chimpanzee female to come from a rib. If I say that chimpanzees are like people, so the female chimp should come from a rib also. What would you say, Tommy? Thanks.
All right, he will answer that question when it is his turn. Thank you. Next is Uzi.
Okay. In my honest what do you call it? In my honest opinion, I would say that when you go to a specific belief of a myth, uh, why we have classified the myths as things that we can't prove the origins. I think people try to get a belief that on a higher understanding than the current one that they have. So they almost many, okay, not all of them, but many dismissed their own culture's myths and went to think that we are more global and included together. So you have the now which they came later to become religions. So that's how we see them, the things going. They start from below and then they go up to something now where you have an entity that's so large that it explains everyone in the circle. But in the same time, addressing what Tommy was saying, uh, he specifically chose to go to the Bible story, which is convenient, of course, because I think most of us, maybe here in Kenya, in Kenya we are mostly Christians and maybe some few Muslims. You can see that the stories the people believe because they try to make them understand the things that maybe their local myths could not help them. Addressing the other issue of science, I think there's a difference between when you're trying to mix myths with science. So myths is things that maybe you can't explain and things that you can't test. Science has things that you can test. If it is testable, and it becomes true, maybe Tommy said something about the Big Bang. I would like to maybe address that and say that it's it's the highest theory. There are other theories. Those are not creation theories or anything. So those are theories about the origin of the universe itself, not the, how do we call it? Not the how it was before, but as we understand it, our evidence lead to this place. And maybe in the future, if more evidence comes and says something else, and we had miscalculated, we'll check why. And then now we can test if that is more viable than the current one. So we don't have to take the Big Bang as the truth of how things went, but we can hold it for now as the reading explanation that is scientifically has the proof and has the evidence that people can follow up. So, in regarding the question number 3 about the establishment of morality, order, and authority, in my opinion, I think it first came as a trial to understand how people came. It didn't, and then later on, they started to use it to control the people and then to establish morality and then control of the people and the authority through it. So maybe I'll give an example in Kenya. Okay, I'll mostly use Kikuyu. We had laws that maybe said, don't cut down that tree, it's sacred. And if you cut it, it burns or you will die, things like that. I think people cut those trees around here, nothing like that happens. But now there are laws that and morality that was used to hold the people. You must respect what that myth says. And now the people who believe in that do the same things that they believe bad things would happen. Now because they stop believing to believe in the myth, they do the things, and they do it shamelessly because I don't believe that is true. And now they have another one, maybe Christianity, which now took the place of the older one, and now they hold to that. It starts with the creation, and then now the commandments. Those are the methods maybe used to outrun the morality and the punishments. So the myth starts well as trying to understand, and then it comes down to authority, and then to setting the morals and the punishment that people will receive afterwards. So I would say, yeah, it that comes later on as a method to control the people and to establish morals in a society.
All right. Thank you, Uzi. I will give my contribution before you speak, Mogaka, because I had spoken before you previously. And I don't raise the hand to myself since I am the moderator. I know when I'm going to speak. Oh, wait. Okay, I see David's hand. Anyway, she'll speak since she's just raised it. She'll speak after Mogaka. First, let me respond.
I'm feeling jealous of Mogaka. He's getting a lot of time.
Oh, no, he's raised his hand, but we will limit his contribution to 5 minutes. Wait,
I
when
yield,
it's fine.
I yield my time to Mam Dewe. She's my elder, so I give her my time.
Oh, okay, Sawa. You will speak then when after I make my contribution. So I want to respond first to something that Mogaka said. Again, another typical tactic used by you Christian apologists is you like to equivocate on science. You know, you pick science works. For the most part, most Christians, most religious people trust science. But then when there is something that science claims which contradicts their holy book, they now start denigrating science. And this is what I have observed with him. He was saying that the Big Bang theory is not proven, and that shows you that we should not dismiss creation myths if we believe in things in science which are not proven. You are wrong. And I even want to correct my fellow atheist El Maestro, who said that Big Bang is just a theory. In science, a theory is not speculative in the colloquial sense that we understand a theory. In science, a theory is something that is empirically tested and verified. It's not a wild guess. It has empirical evidence, rigorous testing, and mathematical modeling. That is why it is called a theory. Even the germ theory of disease is that it's a theory, but it is highly rigorously tested and verified. So even this Big Bang, you like to focus on that one thing that is on the periphery, because there are still some unanswered questions in the Big Bang theory. But as per this moment, it is the best consensus explanation for the origin and evolution of the universe. And some of the evidences, if I may call them that, include a cosmic microwave background radiation. Scientists have detected a faint uniform glow of leftover thermal radiation from the early universe. Another one is the expansion of the universe. Distant galaxies are moving away from us, indicating that the universe is continually stretching. Another proof for Big Bang is abundance of light elements. The theory accurately predicts the amount of primordial elements like hydrogen and helium forged in the first few minutes of the universe's existence. So there's predictability, there's mathematical modeling, and there's empirical evidence for Big Bang. Do not compare that to the creation story. It is almost gimmicky. hata sijui. Little league, nursery, little league, and the major leagues. That's what you're trying to do. There's absolutely no comparison. Now, my answer to this question, number 3, were they used to establish morality, order, and authority? Is absolutely. And being the feminist that I am, I will focus on the gender angle. In the Kikuyu creation myth, I think we are citing the Kikuyu creation myth because it has been retold and it was captured in several books. And the Kikuyu are actually the most dominant tribe in Kenya, as in the largest. I believe so. If maybe as per now, they're the largest demographic, the largest tribe in Kenya. So that's why we keep referencing the story. But okay, Ndeve is saying X. Okay, whatever. Let's discard that bit of them being the biggest tribe, but they are there, and their creation myth has gone around. It's done the rounds. So one of the aspects in the Kikuyu creation story is gender relations. Initially, Mombi and Gikuyu, who were the first man and woman, had 9 daughters. Then there was a 10th daughter. The 10th daughter did not marry. She had a child out of wedlock, and she was ostracized because of that fact. So again, it teaches that principle that you should not have children outside wedlock, and the woman is to blame for this. Another aspect of the Kikuyu creation story, and that also has similarities in the Christian creation story, is the aspect of how man came to dominate woman. That actually seems to be very common in several other myths. I saw even one from Japan where they were explaining that hierarchy, the fact that a man has authority over a woman, and they were using these creation myths. So in the Kikuyu one, they said that there was a point where women, the house of Mombi, because the daughters were the first ones to be created, then God gave them the males. So initially, the tribes were named according to the female side. They were the ones that were warriors, they were cunning, they were leaders, they did many things that made them matriarchs. However, the men plotted and said, we have to defeat these women. And how do we do it? We have to wait for the point where they are pregnant, when they are and they are raising children at that tender age. Then we are going to take over authority. So that's what they did. And there was some antagonism between them. The ladies tried to fight it, and they even wanted to say that we are going to have we are going to get rid of the male children that we sire. But then once they gave birth to those children, they were like, no, these are the children that came from our bodies. We can't do that. So that's how men usurped authority over women, and now the clans were named after the male lineage and not the female one. We know of the Christian one. We've said it over and over again, how sin came into the world, and that is because the woman was deceived by the serpent. So yeah, that's the angle I wanted to bring out. I think we can start proceeding to the final question. Final question is, do these creation myths still have value in modern society? And as we respond to that, we can also give our closing remarks. I see Benyahe Observer. Welcome.
Madam Chair, my time was yielded to Sister Ndeve. She was to speak.
Ndebe, I see that she has
I'll give
lowered
it.
her
I'll
hand.
give it to. Yeah, I'll give it to Banyahe for now. Thank you. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. Yes, Panyaya, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. This is my first time participating. I have a question for Mr. Tommy. When you talk about comparative analysis between creation myths and the Big Bang, I think, why do you ignore the fact that in science it is known and it is understood that science is not complete, it's still evolving, there are still unknowns. I think the comparisons between a a belief system that uh, claims to be the absolute truth about anything and everything in the universe, and a study that it's still evolving is a bit unfair. Also, my thoughts on creation theory, I think partly they were created to explain the societal structure that was in communities that they found themselves in. You find that, as Miss Dorcas has said, you find that the concept of, men having dominion over women, the concept of childbirth, the concept of, women's place in society, what men were supposed to represent in a society. I think for me, from what I've tried researching and reading, creation mythology does not offer a out of societal explanation to the creation, because human beings will reason uh, in the context of what they have gotten, or the knowledge that they have accumulated, or just the culture that have grown. So I think by comparing the two and using one to disprove, or saying, okay, because we don't have comparative evidence about the Big Bang, then we shouldn't dismiss creation theory. No, creation theory should be judged based on the context of what religion portrays itself to be, which is the absolute truth. So that was all for me. That's what I wanted to chime in.
Okay, Baniaye, welcome to our discussion. You're saying it's the first time. I'm curious. Where are you from?
I'm from Kenya.
Okay, as in which part? Kenya is.
I'm from Nakuru County.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're from Nakuru. I hope you are on our group, Skeptics and Atheists
Yes, I
Society
am.
of Kenya. Okay. Is that the username you use on the group?
Oh no, I accidentally I was going back and forth with somebody, so I don't know what happened, but I just found it pasted itself, and then by the time I was trying to correct it, I had already clicked join the link, so I'm sorry for that. My name is Daniel.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you, Daniel, and I hope you'll be coming for more meetings.
Okay, pleasure to be here.
Great. Sawa, let's hear from Morioki. Remember, guys, we are answering the last question and also giving our closing remarks. Do creation myths still have value in modern society?
Thanks, Lucas. And hope Tommy, remember my question, Tommy, about the female chimp. It should come from a rib also, the female chimp. Then also, Tommy, this is for you. In Genesis, there's somebody called Jabal. Jabal, you must know him. He's the father of those who live in tents and livestock. Does that make sense? He's the father. It says Jabal is the father of all those who live in tents and livestock. Then there's somebody else called Jubal. He's the father of all those who play the pipe. Jubal. He's the father of all those who play the pipe. Then somebody else called, I think, Tubaikan. He's the forger of all instruments of bronze and iron. That to me sounds very mythical. That one person is linked with everything. That's to me is like a myth. Tommy, thanks.
Okay, he will raise his hand if he's in a position to answer the questions and also make his contribution, if any. Next is Uzi, and then we'll hear from ex-Pastor Stano. Uzi?
Okay. Regarding the last question about how they helped the myths, they help in the usage in the current society. In the modern society, the people are more intellectual. So you can say science, as we understand it, is a method of knowing. So we have a method of knowing that is more reliable, and so far it produces results that are visible and are in use today. So things like maybe the devices we are using almost every day, we occur to happen and interact with things that we have tested scientifically. I know if I open my phone, it will open. If I do this, I can know if a problem happened with it. I can take and see where the problem is. It's repeatable, it's testable. So mostly in our current society, I think most people either have a way of categorizing, of holding. Okay, there are people who are still religious so far, but they categorize themselves. They categorize in two things. They categorize in science in things that maybe they use every day, and then the parts where they don't understand, they attribute to the myths, which mostly now become religions. And then now the religion itself become a receding pocket of things that we don't know. So maybe the things that maybe science can't explain, like the origin, now you attribute to your myth. The things maybe you hope for and maybe you don't know, you can pray to the god of your myth, and then you hope you receive it. Of course, it's not testable. You can try all your best. It will maybe happen or not, most probably not. And if it happens, maybe it was just bound to happen, and then you can attribute to itself. In terms of the usability itself, I think to some to some function, I can say it's useful in some bits. In terms of maybe the communities, I know the communities are strong, where maybe it brings together people, the meets. So that is the positive sides. I think they have the largest organizations which maybe helps some people. Maybe you can see in some meets, maybe in some religions, they have a non-profit organization where they help maybe the poor, they help the parts of the world that are maybe suffering, but they do help, and at the same times maybe they go there and they preach to the people. So it's you can argue it's not one-sided always. It's not just helping, it's both ways. They help and maybe they preach to you hoping that you'll join them. In that section, yeah, it helps. In terms of the other things, maybe when they try to keep it about the morals and the authority using it, we have seen it doesn't work. It's never peaceful, because when now you hold your myth and somebody else holds a myth that is opposite to yours totally, now you are in total disagreement. And now, if you continue holding your position as the correct position and not test a way where you can have a middle price, maybe the people like today, there are people maybe in Israel who hold this is our land, and the Palestinians say this is our land. And maybe you can, when you attribute it to your religion and your myth of origin, now you can't solve the issue because this person believes this and the other this, and then now it's a conflict. So there I can say it's a detriment. So I can say that's a problem. But yes, it helps in some facts and in some function. In most functions, in totality, maybe let's say 90% of what I think it doesn't. It's a detriment, and it avoids the society from progressing. Because if everybody was sharp thinking about the questions which they don't understand and try to find out instead of having the answer before they get there, we'll be more ahead.
Wonderful. Very well said, Uzi. Next is ex-pastor.
Sorry, I was unavailable. So I just want to comment later on, but as usual, I have to respond to Tommy. The lie that he used in the beginning about the 7-day cycle. He claimed that about the myths are all the same because all the myths they adapt the 7-day cycle, and that is totally wrong because when you do research, or him even told me when you do your own research, you will find that the 7-day cycle was not universal. It was only used in the Middle East religion or myth that were around the Middle East because they were able to interact each other. But when you look outside, for example, like Egypt and China, they were using the 10-day cycle instead of 7. So claiming 7-day cycle was a universal, that is a pure lie because they were using 8-day cycle and the other 13 days and the other were using 10 days or 20 days cycle. So to say 7 days was for everybody or for all the myth or for all the religion, that is totally lie. And when you lie that, how do you think we can trust the other thing that you can tell us? If the first one about the 7th cycle, you have already lied to us. So the other thing is about the creation. You claim that the Bible put very clearly about the creation. But to me, that is not the case because even the creation theory in the Bible, we find something similar to it from a religion that existed before the Bible or before the Abrahamic or before the Judaist religion. That proves that the Bible is not the original of this myth, but this myth existed from Sumerian and the Mesopotamia. That means when the creation came later from the Bible about the around 13 to 1200 BC, it was only copying what was existing because there were other myths that were written before that 1300 BC. So to claim that the Bible is only the authoritarian, that is totally wrong. So there is other thing that Dorcas, you talk about the moral. Yes, these myths were the ones that were guiding people how to behave and how to live. So they were moral guiding. They were guiding people how to behave and how to live. And because they were tribal based or a small group based, their moral were not extended or the boundary was very small. But today, the boundary have expanded. Now we term the whole humans as using the same moral code. But initially, one tribe could invade the other because their religion or their myth could only guide them to protect themselves, but not to protect their neighbor tribes. And that is why they were guided by those myths to follow the right things, but not to follow the right thing when it comes to their neighboring tribes. Until the time they started to interact with the other tribes. Do we still obey those morals? Yes, some, and some we don't, because now we have become too global. So we decide to put some, like slavery, we put it aside, but like murder, we still bind and do not steal. There is thing that we still bind because we find it as universal for our current human society. Maybe in the future, just the way I was telling Morioki about veganism, maybe in the future, we shall consider immoral even to kill a chicken to eat. But for today, we still exploit the animal for our benefit. Just the way the ancient time, the tribe could be able to exploit the other tribe for their own benefit to get land or to steal their property. Thank you.
All right. Yes, maybe one day veganism will be the default setting. That will be a very sad day. I hope I will not be alive to see it. Because life without chicken is not life worth living.
In that case to add, you will still enjoy because maybe science will have come up with another idea where we can manufacture the meat from different flavor for chicken, for beef, we can be able to manufacture in factory. In that case, we can put aside the animals. Maybe.
Maybe. You never know. Thank you. Yes, and thank you. At least you've managed to speak at the tail end of the meeting. Any other person who would like to make a contribution, either answering that last question or generally the topic itself of creation myths? Yes, Morioki.
You know, Tommy is only Christian here, so he has to be on the spot. He can't be quiet like that. He has to represent for Christians. Now he's gone quiet. He's on. He has to be the one because he's only Christian here. Now he's not talking.
I yielded my time to my sister, so you know I have to respect the hierarchy of, I mean my elders. So if she's not speaking, I yielded my time. Thank you.
Okay, Girma, ask some questions, Tommy. Ask you some questions. You remember
All
them?
Right. Well, I can just address one of them because I see it's already 10 minutes past 10.
It's three people who it's mythical. 3 people who are he's the father of all tents and livestock, all bronze things. That's it's like a myth.
So let me just quickly respond to that. Remember the time it was being written. It was being written by Moses, right? The account you're talking about, that's Genesis.
Yeah,
so
Genesis.
Of course, he's referring to the contemporary time in which he was. So the people at the time who are workers of steel, for example, or the people who are known, for example, for music, then would have been that particular culture or that particular person who was named. Just the way today, no one will fight you or dispute you when you say that Africans or Black Americans are the founders of rock and roll, or the pioneers of rap music, or the pioneers of hip hop, or the pioneers of even classical music. Some breed of classical music called ragtime music. So it's natural to say, yes, indeed, Blacks or people who are descended from the African continent are good in terms of music which is syncopated. So in our time, it would make sense.
This one person. So, it's one person only. Yes. One person.
Exactly. That's what I'm telling you. Even then, the person would have been known. So that person, we are not expecting him today. So Moses is writing contemporarily. So to answer your other question about the chimps, I don't think in the scripture it says that the female chimp was created from the rib.
Yeah,
I think all
they're close to us. Chimps are close to us. That's why I used chimp. They're closest to us.
No. Yeah, that's according to what you think. But according to scripture, it says that all other animals or all other nature in terms of biodiversity were created differently from the way Adam and Eve were created. If you say they're close to us, it depends on what you're looking at. If you look at the protein, there's a certain, forgotten the name of that protein. it shows that chimps are completely different from us. If you look at what you're looking at, I think you're using the 98% blah 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 in terms of DNA. I've forgotten the exact terminologies, but if you take that into account, then you'll say they're close to us. If you take that into account, then we are close to bananas, we are close to snails, slugs, but you're looking at the wrong marker to determine a relation. So that's what I have to say about that. In scripture, the chimps and everyone else, I mean, are all created separately, different from the way Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were given a special treatment or relation. Adam himself was made from clay. So already that tells you it's different from the rest of creation. That's what scripture says. Why and the reason they're saying that, it's a different topic for a different another day. I hope I've answered your question, Maruki.
Okay, but big question mark, big question mark. Thanks.
So.
Okay. I see Uzi's hand is up. Go ahead, Uzi.
Okay, my issue was about when you talked about veganism and maybe the people who eat plants instead of animals. I think that's okay. That's also, I can categorize it as selective, maybe choosing of things that maybe you think are not the same life form as yours. So when maybe we all become vegans, hopefully, maybe no, not hopefully, because I like meat. So I would say maybe I think it's the same thing. Maybe where people are trying to be compassionate about animals. Of course, they don't eat maybe cats, domesticated animals, and then but they eat the others. And now the people who are maybe eating vegan, eating maybe greens only, they have decided plants are not alive. I don't know how the reasoning behind it, but I find it very weird because plants also are alive and they have they respond to stimuli, and I think they also have DNA and things like that. So I think in the order of human and animals and plants, I think the hierarchy still remains. In the end, I think you have to eat something. Either it's a life form, of course, because you can't eat stones and things like that. So I think it's selective. I think we should continue eating meat. Hopefully, the people here uh, agree with me. Thank you. I think that's it.
Thank you, Uzi. There's one person who does not agree with you, and that is Morioki. He's our resident vegan. But it's the story for another day. Let us not digress from the topic at hand.
I
Now,
also support Miruki on that. Just a comment. I also support Miruki on that. And according to Genesis, our food is only, now this is, you can consider it a myth as well. But according to Adam and Eve, we were not even supposed to eat vegetables originally. Our food was fruits, nuts, and cereals. And then when Adam and Eve fell, vegetables were introduced into the diet. Now, scientifically, go and check. You find like foods like vegetables, when you prepare them, let's say skuma, even light alone destroys it. Carrots. So you find they don't appear to be food, but we eat them. But originally, our proper food is not animal protein. So I just wanted to comment on that. Thank you.
okay, but as we said, this is a diversion. We are talking about creation myths. If there's any other person who would like to say something before I give my final remarks and end the meeting, speak now or forever hold your peace.
If
Okay.
Mamdewe is not, oh, sorry.
Yeah, okay. I'm asking if there's somebody who has a final remark.
Maybe I can add about the Moses. I heard Moses wrote the Bible, but the the book that claim was written by Moses is the Bible. So if I have a book that the book claim was written by so and so, is that approved? Is not approved? And in the same case, where can we, if we assume Moses existed, because for me, I don't think Moses existed, but if we assume Moses existed, which book did he wrote? Because some books, they claim Moses died and how he was buried, and those books were claimed were written by the same Moses. So that is how sometimes the myth contradict itself. Thank you.
Okay,
Maybe
Tommy.
yes, just in the closing remarks, thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope next time we can invite more Christians to give their perspectives. But generally, I could just say, as much as we may consider this creation and call it a myth, for example, because when I saw the poster, I saw the introduction was interesting because it said creation stories, and then it put a question: are they myths? Are they history, or what are they? So, but coming into the meeting, I find that you've already branded them as myths. So it became a bit confusing, a bit. I mean, challenging a bit to respond or to participate. But what I can say, in my opinion, if you guys are able to, as much as we may consider them not to be true, no problem. We all have opinions, but let's take what we can get from them in terms of the best. Let's say like the idea of veganism or eating green. I think that's something which you can consider. Go and test, then find if it makes sense, and then adopt it. The other idea of
Tommy, are you a vegan? Sorry. Tommy, are you vegan?
Me?
Sorry. Are you Tommy? Are you a vegan?
Yes, I don't. I normally tell my friends that I don't eat my friends, and animals are my friends, or I don't eat anything that had a face, a family, or feelings.
Oh,
So
cool. Then. That's cool.
yeah, awesome. So in short, what I'm saying is thank you very much for the presentations and the topic, but I'd also challenge you guys to try and look at some aspects of it. I didn't share earlier, but there's a doctor called Dr. Carl Bohr. He's a scientist and he's a creationist. And when I was in Form 1, I was ready to leave my faith or leave Christianity when we were introduced to the Zinjanthropus, Australopithecus, and those hominid kind of things. I know you guys remember it because it was for those who did history. I was one of the top students history. It's one of my favorites. But when I went down and tried to study, in terms of science, to study the veracity of the claims, I found them to be falling short a lot of it. So as much as I don't understand the Bible 100% or have proof for everything that it says, a lot of it adds up and makes sense. So on those grounds, I would say, if you're able to, don't dismiss it fully. I'm not saying that don't take it as truth. Also, but even as you don't take it as truth, don't throw out the bath water with the baby. For example, El Maestro said he is glad he was never a Christian because we are brought for colonizers things. Well, that could be true, but also, what if you roll back in time and find that we are the ones who took this creation stories, this Bible to the Mzungu? So would we now be right to say we are throwing away our own stuff? So I'm thinking, let's not completely dismiss it. Let's go back in time where possible, or let's go down and look at the things which at least have value and hold on to it. For me, as an African, it traces my origin back to equality of mankind, and I can trace it. For example, the 4 tribes that we have, 4 groupings of peoples in Kenya, can be traced back in scripture. You can find the same 4 people.
Tommy, to
sorry,
make it short. Yeah, to make it short, because you may speak a lot. Is creation stories? Yeah, I'm asking a question. Is creation stories historical or a myth? Creation stories.
not all of them. They're not all equal. That's why I'm saying, go test them. Go put them in a line. All of them. Let's say you have 10 of them from South America, from Asia,
So
from
not
Africa.
all of them. Some are historical, some are myth.
Myths, yes, myths. Some of them have elements of truth in them, elements of history in them, which now got lost in time as the people dispersed in space, and in terms of geography or in terms of time. So that's what I'm trying to say. So when we completely dismiss them as not having meaning, then we end up losing so much important information. I'll give you an example of the mystery legend. All of us are in Kenya. We know about the idea that some tribes say they came from Misri. So when the colonialists came, they said, this is lies. How can these people say they came from Misri, which is Egypt? Yet these are Bantus, some in Mount Elgon, some in Mount Kenya, some at the coast. But when we look,
I think you answer my question. You can proceed with your idea or your opinion to avoid more story.
Okay, I think I forgot.
30 seconds
Yeah,
left.
So I was just making a closing remark. I just want to give thanks for the opportunity to speak here. Hopefully, I don't know whether I'll continue to be coming, but if I do, I'll always be grateful for the opportunity. That said, I just want to commend you guys. If possible, let's not completely throw it out and say it's junk, it's takataka, but at least investigate and see whether there's possible truth which you can absorb to help you. For example, right now I'm reading the book Origin of Species. Hopefully, when I come, I can get for you guys copy in the next meeting. I don't believe it as a Christian because it's the basis of the evolution theory, but I know I can get something from it, and that's why I'm reading it. Thank you.
All right. Now let me also give my closing remarks and call it a night. I'll start again with Mogaka. And this is not an invite to argue because we are really past time and we've given you a lot of your time. You claimed at a certain point in the discussion that the Bible is unique from other local myths because...
Oh, it's my network unstable. I thought it's yours. Thank you. For proceed.
Okay. That other creation myths tend to be too localized. This one is global in nature. But I put it to you that the creation myth and the beginning parts of humanity are actually very ethnocentric. Christianity and Judaism, Christianity comes from Judaism. This is a Hebrew faith. Most of the interactions that occur between God and mankind occur within the tribe of Israel.
Allow me to correct you.
No,
allow me.
Please.
No,
Tommy, we are out of time. Type on the chat.
No, you said something which is not accurate because I didn't say that. What you're saying, I didn't say that.
Okay, fine. Sawa.
What I said is,
we leave that point alone, Tommy. We leave that point alone because we are out of time.
Go and check. Guys, just go and check Genesis 10, chapter 10. It is the only ancient literature which maps out humanity's dispersal in scripture. Thank you.
I'm moderating the discussion. We proceed to the other thing that you said. And this is not an invite to rebut because we are out of time. You also said 6,000, that when we claim the Bible, according to the creation narrative, would date the earth as being 6,000 years old, you affirmed that that's not accurate because the Bible doesn't say that, and that is an interpretation that we atheists implant on the Bible. Yes, you are right. The Bible does not say that the earth is 6,000 years old. Explicitly, it does not. But we can do basic math. You can add 1 + 1 and get 2. So if the Bible says that the earth was created in 7 days, and on the sixth day, man was created, so we can use biblical genealogy to calculate. It's not exactly 6,000, it's approximately plus or minus a couple of years, but thereabout. That's the rough estimate. So you are trying to totally nullify that assertion when we can do some simple mathematics. You can go with the genealogy from Adam, you continue up to Abraham, you continue all the way up to when Jesus came to be, because our timing system is BC. It is what after? How do we name our AD? Yes, AD. We use the AD system after Christ's death. So we can just do some simple mathematics. Next thing, in response to this last question, do these creation myths still have value in modern society? I think they have been surpassed with time. We have better alternatives. Science is a better method of learning about the natural world. In fact, it is the best method to date about studying the natural world. Additionally, when it comes to things like morality, the morals of most of those creation stories have now been outdated because they were created at a time when people were not as evolved, morally speaking. Secular humanism, and by extension, philosophical reasoning is a better way to arrive at moral ideas. Then I also think that creation myths are a problem because they tend to encourage a tribalistic view of things. And by tribe, I don't just mean the ethnicities as in the Luya tribal myth or the Kikuyu tribal myth. I mean having an us versus them mentality, because our creation myths puts us at the center, us as the Muslims, us as the Christians, us as the Hindus. It puts us at the center. Then you view other people who don't share that idea as a different from you. So yeah, I will concede that I have misquoted the title of this topic because I was not the moderator. I just took it up at the last minute because the designated moderator refused to pick our calls and did not show up to the meeting. So he's right. The flyer was saying creation stories, myths, blah, 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 whatever it was saying. So I didn't quote it verbatim. That one I will concede. I should have been more accurate on that. And finally, on that clarion call that he made, that we should not outrightly dismiss creation myths, let's look for something of value in them. Of course, this is common even in folk tales. Whenever we are reading stories, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, there's a lesson we can learn from that tale. Or how the leopard got its stripes, how the hare became more cunning, or how the lion conquered other animals. Of course, we can learn a lesson from it, but to take it as the truth, it is highly irrational. Snakes don't talk. You can't take mud, breathe into it, and create a human. That's the kind of stuff you want us to believe, and you want us to dismiss the tested and proven scientific explanations? No. Yes, there are few gems here and there, but we cannot take those stories as truth. Thank you for representing the Christians. Tommy, again, he has logged off. He says we need to invite more Christians. We have an entire group. We have an entire WhatsApp group that is full of different people from different faiths, and we extend the invites there. I don't know why they don't show up. So we give you credit for holding fort for them. Maybe you can extend the invite. I know he has logged out, but he'll listen to the recording. You can invite your compatriots from your church, because you say that your church likes to reach out to people who hold different religious views. So yes, invite them. It would be a pleasure to hear from them here, and we can interrogate each other's beliefs and see whether they hold water or not. I'd also like to thank everybody that spoke. It was lovely to meet you for the first time, Beniahe Observer, or he said it's Daniel. Thank you, El Maestro, for contributing in the meeting. Thank you so much, Deve, for your takes. I also appreciated Morioki's input as well as ex-pastor towards the end. And of course, Uzi was really instrumental in this discussion. I hope, Uzi, you can be coming in more for these discussions. The moderator, the designated moderator, will have to buy me coffee for holding brief for him. Kwanza sai mwezi kokona mbaya. I am so gonna collect. Anyway, let's meet next week for another topic. Of course, we like to mix things up. If today it was a religious heavy topic, next time it will be something non-religious. Yeah, most likely something maybe philosophical or political or social, whatever. But yeah, let's meet next Saturday. I wish you guys a good night, good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Bye.
Good night.